Some people throw shade just to see if you'll grow in the dark. There comes a moment in life where you're not shocked by what they said, but by the fact that they actually had the nerve to say it out loud. You pause, you blink, and in that 1 second you think, did they really just say that to me? My friends, this video is for that moment. That second of disbelief when someone disrespects you and you're tempted to either explode or disappear. But what if I told you there's a third option, a more powerful one that leaves them speechless without you breaking a sweat? Now, hey folks, imagine you're at a party, you're dressed sharp, you're vibing, and someone walks up and spills their emotional trash on you like you're a dumpster, unprovoked, disrespectful, and loud about it too. Most people, they either scream or shrink, but you? After today, you'll do neither. You'll stay still, breathe slow, and drop a line so cold it freezes their ego mid-air. Here's the lie you've been fed, that you have to fight rudeness with more noise. Nah, that's what they expect. The real power? It's in the quiet storm, in saying one sentence with so much calm, so much clarity. It flips the room without flipping your peace. Like the Stoics said, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. You don't need to out-yell a fool, you need to outclass them. So stay with me. We're about to turn your silence into strength and your words into weapons. Comment this below. Power, peace, poise. Let them read it, let them feel it. Let's begin. Number 1. Is that supposed to impress me? Arrogance is the camouflage of the insecure. Some people walk into the room not to connect, but to conquer. They don't listen, they don't observe, they perform. And the show? It's all ego. Their voice gets louder, their tone gets sharper, and they throw words like daggers, not to communicate, but to dominate. And when they speak to you, it's not conversation, it's a challenge, a weird, subtle flex masked as sarcasm, judgment, or condescension. And you're just standing there thinking, are they serious? Is this how they talk to people? Do they think this is impressive? Let me paint you a picture, my friends. Imagine you're standing at a calm beach. You've got your feet planted in the sand, peaceful, grounded. And suddenly, a storm rolls in, but not a natural one. A man-made, loud, chaotic storm. Wind machines, flashing lights, fake thunder, all staged. That's exactly what these rude performers do. They throw on a show of power to distract you from the fact that there's nothing solid behind it. No depth, just noise. But here's what nobody tells you. Most of the time, that confidence is hollow. That arrogance is armor. They act impressed with themselves, so you'll feel small in comparison. And you've probably felt it before. Your stomach tightens, your words freeze, your brain tells you, don't say the wrong thing, don't make it worse. And suddenly, their fake superiority starts to feel real. But my friends, don't buy into the illusion. Don't let the volume fool you. The loudest person in the room is usually the weakest. The one who brags the most is often the most fragile, and the one who disrespects first is usually the one who fears being disrespected the most. They'll try to corner you with big words, slick remarks, passive-aggressive digs. And what do they want? They want your reaction, your silence, your insecurity. But what if instead of shrinking, you just raised your eyebrows, gave them a half smile, and said calmly, "Is that supposed to impress me?" That line? That's not just a comeback. It's a mirror. It stops them cold because it reflects their insecurity right back at them. It tells them you're not dazzled, you're not intimidated. You see through the glitter and the noise. And nothing unsettles a pretender more than someone who sees the act for what it is. Here's the truth that will wake some of you up. You've been giving away your power because you were taught to be nice. You were told to stay humble even when people are being condescending. You were told to take the high road even when that road felt like swallowing glass. But let me break that lie right now. Respecting yourself does not make you arrogant. Calling out nonsense does not make you rude. Owning your presence does not make you aggressive. There's a massive difference between reacting emotionally and responding with clarity. And saying, "Is that supposed to impress me?" is clarity. It tells the world around you that you know your value, that you are not moved by fake power plays, that your sense of self is not available for auction every time someone loud walks in the room. Will it be hard the first time you say it? Probably. You'll feel your hands shake, your heart might race, that fear of rejection, of conflict, it'll rise. But on the other side of that sentence is something sacred, self-respect. And the more you use it, the more you'll realize. They were never powerful. You were just silent. So let them talk, let them flex, let them perform. You don't need to audition for anyone. You walk in with peace, power, and presence. And if someone tests that, you don't yell. You don't argue. You just lean in and say calmly, without flinching, "Is that supposed to impress me?" Now do this. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I see through the noise. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world around you that you're done being impressed by empty noise. And stay with me, because the next thing we're about to say will make the silence hit even harder. Number 2, you must be exhausted, carrying all that ego around. Some people don't walk into the room, they drag their ego in first. You know the type. They enter like they own the place, talking like their opinions are gold-plated wisdom, interrupting like silence offends them. And when they speak, it's never to connect, it's to establish dominance. You can almost see it, this invisible weight they carry, this swollen ego they're so desperate to keep afloat. And you're just sitting there, thinking to yourself, are they always like this? Do they really believe the world revolves around them? And the worst part? They want you to feel small. They want you to second-guess yourself, to fold under their confidence, to mistake their volume for value. But what they don't expect is a calm sentence that cuts deeper than any argument. One quiet phrase that dismantles their entire identity performance. You must be exhausted, carrying all that ego around. It sounds simple, it sounds light, but it lands heavy because it tells the truth. It tells them that you see through the performance, that their energy is not intimidating, it's embarrassing. That all that noise, all that fake superiority, it's not power, it's weight, heavy, desperate, and it's dragging them down while they're trying to climb on top of others. Let's break a lie we've all been told, my friends, that arrogant people are confident. Wrong. True confidence is quiet. True confidence doesn't need to prove itself in every conversation. It doesn't need to belittle others, interrupt them, or turn every moment into a spotlight audition. Arrogance is not power. It's a symptom of something broken, an inner emptiness, a deep insecurity dressed up in loud colors and big words. Now, some of you have stayed quiet for years around people like this. Maybe it was a boss, a friend, a partner, someone who made you feel like you had to tiptoe around their pride, like the price of keeping peace was your silence. And every time they flexed their ego, you laughed politely, you nodded, you stayed small, but no more. Stoicism isn't about being passive, it's about being unshakable. It's about seeing through illusions and not letting someone else's noise rearrange your inner peace. And this line, you must be exhausted. It doesn't just call them out. It reminds you who you are. Calm, clear, centered. Someone who doesn't need to shout to be heard. Someone who doesn't need to perform to feel powerful. Let me give you a picture. Imagine you're climbing a mountain. Just you, your breath, and the wind. You're focused, you're ascending, and then you hear someone behind you, carrying bags they don't need, shouting every 5 minutes for attention, stopping every few steps to brag about how high they've climbed. But here's the truth, they're not ahead of you. They're not climbing. They're stuck. Their ego is their burden. And while they're busy performing, you're moving in silence, upward. That's what happens when you drop this line. It reminds them that their arrogance is a weight, not a weapon. And it reminds you that you've stopped playing the game. They might smirk. They might try to laugh it off. But make no mistake, they'll remember it. Because the ego never forgets the one who saw through it. And yes, it'll take courage. The first time you say it, you'll feel the pressure. You might even hesitate. But once the words leave your mouth, you'll feel lighter, stronger. Like you finally said what you've been wanting to say for years. And maybe, just maybe, the room around you shifts. Maybe others, who've been quiet too, finally see someone stand in truth without raising their voice. So the next time someone walks in dragging their inflated sense of self behind them and tries to shrink you with sarcasm, dominance, or fake wisdom, don't compete. Don't yell. Don't even blink. Just smile and say, "You must be exhausted carrying all that ego around." And watch what happens next. Watch how silence follows. Watch how their act loses momentum. Drop this in the comments right now. I carry peace, not ego. Let them know. Let yourself know. This is where you reclaim your space, not with volume, but with value. And stay close, because what comes next will hit even deeper. Number 3. You're loud, but you're not heard. Noise doesn't equal presence, and volume doesn't equal value. We all know someone who mistakes being loud for being respected, someone who thinks that dominating every conversation somehow makes them important. They interrupt, they talk over people, they repeat the same recycled lines like they're dropping wisdom from the heavens. But the truth, they're not being heard. They're just filling silence with sound, and deep down, they know it. You've seen it. Maybe in a meeting, maybe at a dinner table, maybe in your own house. Someone starts talking, not to add something meaningful, but to make sure they stay relevant. They throw in opinions that no one asked for, act like experts in everything, and speak with this fake confidence that's supposed to intimidate. But you can feel it. The room isn't impressed. It's exhausted. That's when you drop the line. Calm, unbothered, sharp as a blade. You're loud, but you're not heard. Boom. Silence. Why? Because it exposes something they desperately want to hide. The fact that they're not actually respected. They're tolerated. There's a difference, and once you say it, everyone else in the room feels it too. That this person's voice has never been about contribution. It's always been about control. Let's break the illusion right now. Loud doesn't mean powerful. It doesn't mean wise. And it sure as hell doesn't mean right. In fact, most of the loudest people you'll ever meet are the ones running from their own silence. Because silence demands self-awareness. It demands truth. And if they stopped talking long enough to hear their own thoughts, they'd have to face everything they've been avoiding. You ever notice how real leaders speak? They wait, they listen, and when they finally speak, it's measured, it's thoughtful, it cuts through. Because it's not the amount of words that holds weight, it's the intention behind them. That's what rude people lack. Intention. They just talk to stay on stage. But their act, it's wearing thin. There's a metaphor here, folks. Imagine a broken car with no brakes just flying down the road, engine screaming, loud, but lost. That's what these people are. Noise machines with no direction. And when you calmly remind them that no one's actually listening, you don't just embarrass them, you shift the power dynamic completely. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. What if they get angrier? What if I make things worse? Let me tell you something. People who rely on noise hate clarity. They thrive in chaos. They want to keep the waters muddy because that's where their fake power survives. But the second you speak the truth with calm confidence, they lose their footing. Because now, everyone sees it. The game, the ego, the desperation behind the volume. This line doesn't just silence them, it empowers you. It reminds you that your peace isn't something to sacrifice for social comfort, that your voice doesn't need to compete, it needs to resonate. And resonance doesn't require noise, it requires depth. The beauty of saying, "You're loud, but you're not heard," is that it's not an insult, it's an observation, one they can't argue with, because deep down, they feel it too. They've been talking louder and louder, hoping someone will finally see them, validate them, confirm that they matter. But instead, you held up a mirror. And that's silence they're left with. That's the sound of being exposed. And yes, it might shake the room, it might create tension, but that's what happens when truth walks in. It doesn't scream, it doesn't beg, it just is, and people feel it. So next time someone starts steamrolling a conversation, turning every topic into their personal stage, trying to drown out your thoughts with their noise, don't raise your voice. Don't get defensive. Don't try to match their energy. Just pause, look them in the eye, and say it. You're loud, but you're not heard. Let that echo, let the room breathe. Now write this in the comments. I speak with depth. Because from this point forward, you're not battling for attention. You're commanding respect through clarity. You don't perform, you impact. And the next line, it's going to dismantle attention seekers before they even finish their sentence. Stay with me. Number 4, that's a strange way to show you're hurting. Most rude people aren't evil. They're just in pain, pretending they're not. You ever meet someone who throws shade at you with a smile? Someone who disguises insults as jokes, criticism as just being honest, and disrespect as casual banter. They say things like, "You look tired," or, "Oh, that's what you're wearing," and they act like it's nothing, like it's normal, like you should just laugh it off and not make a scene. But my friends, let's call it what it really is, a cry for attention. A cracked soul trying to mask their own chaos. And that's why this one sentence lands like a lightning strike. That's a strange way to show you're hurting. It's calm, it's surgical, and it breaks the entire act. Because now you've taken their mask off in front of everyone, without yelling, without cursing, without losing your cool. You didn't insult them, you revealed them. And trust me, nothing stings harder than being seen too clearly. People who are emotionally whole don't go around spreading venom. People who are at peace don't need to sabotage your confidence to feel better about their own. But when someone's hurting and hasn't done the work, they lash out sideways. They can't say, "I feel small," so they make you feel small. They can't say, "I'm struggling," so they mock your growth. It's not strength. It's a scream. Imagine someone bleeding and throwing paint over it so no one sees the wound. That's what these rude people are doing. Throwing jokes, sarcasm, passive aggression, hoping you won't notice the fracture inside. But when you calmly say, "That's a strange way to show you're hurting," you don't attack. You shine a light. And most of them can't survive in that kind of honesty. Now I know some of you have been conditioned to ignore these behaviors, to not rock the boat. You've been told, "They're just like that," or "Don't take it personally." But let me tell you something real. They want you to take it personally. That's the goal, to poke you just enough so you react, so you question yourself, so you play into their pain cycle. But when you respond with calm insight, with emotional clarity, you shatter that entire dynamic. You let them know, "I see you, and I'm not playing your game." You remove their ability to manipulate the moment, because now everyone sees what's really going on. It's not confidence, it's hurt, and that changes everything. You ever walk into a room with a broken light that keeps flickering? That's how they are. Constant static. Constant disruption, because staying still, being quiet, would mean facing themselves. So they start fires wherever they go, just to avoid sitting in the dark with their own thoughts. And when you say what they've been hiding from, "You're hurting?" They can't laugh it off anymore. You don't need to fix them. You don't need to give them therapy. You just need to keep your peace and deliver that truth with absolute calm. Because healing doesn't come from chaos, it comes from clarity. And sometimes the greatest power you can carry is the ability to say what others are afraid to say, with composure. Let me be clear though, this doesn't mean excusing their behavior. Just because someone's hurting doesn't mean you accept their disrespect. You're not their emotional punching bag, but what you are is awake, aware, and unwilling to shrink for the sake of someone else's fragile ego. And yes, they might roll their eyes, they might deflect, but the silence afterward, that's not awkward, that's truth settling in, that's the ego scrambling for a new disguise. Because when you see someone's rudeness as pain and you call it out, not cruelly but calmly, you've already won. So next time someone throws a backhanded compliment, a fake joke, or a low blow meant to sting, don't get loud, don't explain, don't beg for understanding. Just tilt your head, half smile, and say, "That's a strange way to show you're hurting." Let the silence speak, let the room breathe, and let the mask fall. Now drop this in the comments right now. I see through the pain. Because from this moment on, you don't just protect your peace, you reveal what others hide. You're no longer the victim of someone else's storm. You've become the calm that exposes it. Stay with me, what comes next is even colder. Number 5, you mistake silence for weakness. It's not. A lion doesn't need to roar to remind the jungle who it is. You ever notice how some people treat your silence like an invitation to test you? They see you staying calm, composed, maybe even quiet, and they think that means you're soft, passive, scared, so they poke, they produced, they talk slick, crack jokes, raise their voice, and all the while they're watching your face, hoping for a reaction. But what they don't realize is that your silence isn't fear, it's discipline. They mistake your stillness for surrender, but what they're actually looking at is restraint. And this line, "You mistake silence for weakness," it's not. We'll shut that entire game down, because here's the truth, my friends. Weak people talk fast and loud because they're scared to sit in their own discomfort. They perform, they over-explain, they get defensive. But those who are truly strong, they move with intention. They don't waste energy proving things to people who were never listening to begin with. Their power doesn't come from volume, it comes from presence. Imagine a mountain, unmoving, unbothered by the wind, the storm, the noise around it. That's you. That's your silence. And when someone throws disrespect your way expecting chaos, and you respond with calm clarity, that's when they realize they picked the wrong person to play with. You see, rude people expect drama. They expect shouting, arguing, losing control. That's how they win. Not by being right, but by dragging you into their noise. Because once you react, they get what they wanted, control. But when you look them in the eye, steady, still, and say you mistake silence for weakness, it's not. You remind them that their chaos has no grip on you. Let's talk about why this is difficult. Because some of you were raised to believe that staying quiet means losing. That if you don't clap back, if you don't speak up, they'll think you're scared. You've been trained to defend yourself constantly. But that's a lie, a toxic one. Silence isn't surrender, it's strategy. Not every battle is worth entering. Not every insult deserves a reply, and not every fool deserves your energy. The Stoics understood this. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." That means staying rooted, not imitating the same chaos you're trying to escape. And that's where this line becomes your armor. You're not denying the disrespect, you're exposing your power. I remember a time someone went off on me in a group setting. accusations, sarcasm, passive aggression, trying to trigger a reaction. Years ago, I would have snapped, lost my composure. But that day, I stayed silent, not passive, just still. And when the room went quiet, I looked at him and said, "You mistake silence for weakness. It's not." You could feel the shift in the air, because everyone knew I wasn't afraid. I was in control, and he wasn't. Here's why this line is lethal. It's not just for them, it's for you. Every time you speak it, you remind yourself that you don't owe anyone your reaction, that you've evolved past the need to prove your worth to people who don't even know their own, that your calm is not a void, it's a weapon. It also teaches people how to treat you, because once they realize you won't be baited, that their usual tactics won't work on you, they start backing off. Not because you yelled, but because your energy became untouchable. You're no longer reacting, you're redirecting. You're showing them that you're not silent because you're weak. You're silent because you're strong enough to let fools talk and wise enough not to join them. So next time someone disrespects you, thinking your quietness means they've won the upper hand, don't raise your voice. Don't stoop to their level. Just say it like a calm storm. You mistake silence for weakness. It's not. Then go back to your peace. Let them sit in the discomfort of their own noise. Now write this in the comments. My silence is power. Let it be your reminder. Let it be your boundary. Let it be your roar in a world full of screaming emptiness. And stay with me. The next one goes even deeper into the art of verbal precision. Number 6. You talk a lot for someone who says so little. An empty cup makes the most noise when it hits the table. Some people talk just to hear themselves. They ramble in circles, drop big words they barely understand, and pretend they're delivering wisdom, when really they're just broadcasting insecurity. You've heard them. Loud, overconfident, always ready to interrupt, correct, dominate. But when you actually listen to what they're saying, there's nothing there. No depth, no clarity, just fluff dressed up in ego. And the worst part, they act like everyone else is the problem, like they're surrounded by people who don't get it, when the truth is, nobody's impressed because they're not saying anything real. That's where this line comes in. Calm, clear, devastating. You talk a lot for someone who says so little. It's not an insult. It's a revelation, a mirror they never asked for. Because now you've exposed the truth in a single sentence, and there's no coming back from it. You didn't shout. You didn't curse. You didn't argue. You just showed them and everyone else in the room that they're all noise and no value. Let me tell you why this hits hard. These types rely on performance. They thrive on attention, even if it's forced. Their identity is built around being seen as the smart one, the funny one, the alpha. But when someone calmly cuts through the act with a line that highlights the emptiness behind the volume, it wrecks them. Because now the room knows. You know. They know. It's like watching someone build a house out of cardboard and then act like it's a fortress until a breeze comes through and exposes it all. You didn't destroy them. You just stopped pretending they built something real. Some of you have been listening to these people your whole life. At work, in your family, online, and it's exhausting. But from now on, you don't need to out-talk them. You just need to speak the truth, calmly, cleanly, and walk away. So the next time someone talks over you, floods the room with fake depth, or tries to dominate with their voice alone, don't argue, don't engage. Just say, you talk a lot for someone who says so little. And then let the silence expose what their words couldn't cover up. Now do this. Drop it in the comments. Truth over noise. If this hit home, if you've been quietly holding your power, now's the time to own it. Like this message, Share it with someone who needs to find their voice again. And don't forget to subscribe. We've got more coming that'll sharpen your tongue and strengthen your silence. This was just the beginning. Stay untouchable. Stay you.